From beautiful beachfront entertainment venues whose weathered docks and creaking rides are rumored to be roamed by restless spirits tied to their lengthy pasts, to aged places of leisure where it's said the dead continue to enjoy their favorite aged attractions from beyond the grave. Are you sure you're ready to brave our picks for some of the most haunted amusement parks in the United States? Number 5. Six Flags over Texas. Located off of Six Flags Drive out of Arlington, Texas, lies the world-famous Six Flags over Texas, a 212-acre amusement park offering a wide range of rides, attractions, and themed zones. Historically, following a visit to Disneyland out of Anaheim, California, shortly after its 1955 opening, Texan real estate developer Angus G. Wynn Jr. would set his sights on developing a similar park within his home state, after which, in 1959, and under the leadership of Wynn, of the Great Southwest Corporation, and of a number of wealthy New York City investors, planning would commence, with construction starting the following year through the August of 1960. In 1961, Six Flags over Texas would open its gates, with its name derived from the flags of the 6 nations that have governed the state, and on opening day, guests were actually able to visit 6 originally themed lands held within the park, being that of Mexico, of Spain, of France, of the Confederacy, of Texas, and of a portion dubbed Modern, which represented a bulk of the US, though many more themes would be added over subsequent years. As Six Flags grew in popularity through the 1960s, a number of new rides and attractions would be developed. By 1974, annual attendance numbers would surpass 2 million, and in 2020, and for the first time in its history, the park would begin operating on a year-round schedule, whereas before, it would only run from March through the end of the year. In the present, Six Flags over Texas remains open and in operation, offering a range of rides, games, attractions, dining and drink options, shopping venues, and so much more. While this site definitely features less in the way of haunted history than some of our other featured attractions, the one legend this Six Flags is infamous for is easily dark enough to land it on our list. As it's told, sometime through the early 1900s, a little girl named Annie died near Johnson Creek, on lands that hold the Texas section of the park. Incidentally, this untimely demise is rumored to have left poor little Annie's soul at unrest, and her manifestation has been sighted nearly on the daily, wandering through the site's various sections and even interacting with the living on a limited basis. Annie, who has been recognized to harbor quite the mischievous streak, has been known to play small pranks on unsuspecting guests, and seems to be fond of both Runaway Mountain and of flicking the lights on and off in her old room, which lies within the yellow house near the entrance to the Texas Giant. Rather horrifyingly, one researcher within Annie's room documented a teddy bear moving on its own, and also swears they heard a little girl's voice utter the words, "Let me play with your hair." Number 4. The Sylvan Beach Amusement Park. Located off of Bridge Street out of Sylvan Beach in New York, the Sylvan Beach Amusement Park is a popular and iconic expanse that's actually widely believed to be one of the oldest amusement parks not just in its city or state, but in the whole of the US. Historically, in 1840, Sylvan Beach was first founded. Over the years, as public transport in the form of railroads and ferries to the locale increased, the community would grow into a desirable resort town. Through the 1870s, people would actually begin referring to Sylvan as the Coney Island of central New York, and in 1879, our amusement park in question would open its doors, bringing with it thousands of vacationers and hungry entrepreneurs with their planned hotels and accommodations. The early 20th century would welcome a new era of growth as cottages, campsites, and the like begin sprouting up across Oneida Lake's shorelines, and expansion would only be further fueled following the 1960s welcoming of Interstate 81 through the region, after which traffic unrestricted would greatly increase, ensuring Sylvan remain a fun and desirable getaway up into modern times. In the present, Sylvan Beach Amusement Park remains open to the public, offering a ridiculously fun assortment of midway rides, arcade games, delicious foods, water attractions, mini golf, and so much more. Rather classically, the whole of Sylvan is believed to be haunted quite simply by the restless spirits of those who cherished its bounds and lives since spent, and both staff and visitors to the expanse have reported a host of chilling paranormal activity, including objects sighted moving on their own or even floating in midair, strange sounds heard after close, and oddly, instances of coins flying through the air or even dropping spontaneously, literally seemingly out of nowhere. Notably, several informal investigations of the park have yielded strange EMF fluctuations, crystal clear EVPs, and orbs in odd forms that are captured in the backgrounds of photography and video, while investigations performed on the show Ghost Hunters yielded the findings that a majority of the spirits surrounding Sylvan are probably benevolent and just trying to enjoy their happy ever afters. The two unrelated entities of a man named Jack and of a woman in white have been known to frequent yesterday's Royal Bar, while the small specter of a girl named Abby has been known to manifest on rides and is even acknowledged by ride operators, who have witnessed her literally strapping herself into the rides and have done a double take only to find the seat she was about to sit in has been completely empty. Also reported across park bounds and confined to no particular areas are reports of extreme cold patches, the unnerving feelings of being watched, of being followed, or even of being touched by someone or something unseen, and of encounters with both shadowy figures and with unidentified apparitions in clothing spanning the ages. Lastly, the ghost of one Scott, or Scotty, who it's believed was possibly a former employee that died on park grounds, has been observed often across Treasureland and within the Playland attic, and has also less frequently been sighted in other areas across Sylvan. Number 3. Cedar Point. Located off of Cedar Point Drive on a Lake Erie peninsula out of Sandusky, Ohio, lies none other than Cedar Point, an impressively iconic amusement park boasting the title of being the second oldest operating establishment of its type in the whole of the United States. Historically, in 1870, German immigrant and entrepreneur Louis Zistel would open a bathhouse on the northern shore of Cedar Point Peninsula. Later the same year, he would add a beer garden and dance floor, and eventually, as popularity in the peninsula grew, in 1882, Benjamin F. Dwell and one Captain William Slackford, who held leases over the land through the region, would construct 8 new bathhouses, a dance hall, and wooden walkways across the beaches, after which they would continue to expand their operations, adding new features such as picnic tables, cleared spaces, a baseball diamond, and more. Cedar Point's first official amusement ride would be established in 1890. In 1891, the park would welcome the installation of electricity for the first time, and in 1892, the Switchback Railway would open as the first of the Point's roller coasters. Over the years, the park's popularity would grow rapidly. In 1946, what is now Cedar Point's oldest ride, being the Midway Carousel, was installed, and in 1964, what is now the Point's oldest surviving roller coaster, being the Blue Streak, was constructed. Over time, the park would welcome a multitude of other rides and attractions, and from 1997 to 2013 would receive the Golden Ticket Award for Best Amusement Park in the World under Amusement Today. Cedar Point remains open into the present, offering lush beaches, arcade games, food, events, shows, and, according to long-standing legends, its own slew of resident supernatural activity, with both guests and staff to its bounds reporting orbs and strange silhouettes captured in photography and video, huge gusts of wind that pick up inexplicably within sealed spaces, odd knocking and scratching noises that emanate from within walls, and encounters with a range of ghostly figures in clothing spanning the park's long years of operation. By far, Cedar Point's most famous and popular legend surrounds its Midway Carousel, which is actually one of only 2 of the remaining Daniel Muller carousels. Notably, it was constructed in 1912 and was later moved in 1946 to Cedar Point. Amidst this period, in 1917, Muller would carve what is now recognized as Muller's military horse. According to tale, Dan's wife would become obsessed with this horse, and following her passing, those visiting the park begin reporting sightings of her apparition riding the haunted steed. Additionally, tale also told that Mrs. Muller's spirit would always seemingly prevent people from taking pictures of the war horse, possibly in order to prevent anyone else from falling as deeply in love with it as she. While this original Muller horse is no longer held on the carousel, it is still housed near the back of the park in the Frontier Town Museum, and almost on the nightly, staff report hearing the soft footsteps of what they believe is Mrs. Muller as her ghost strolls the area now housing her favorite steed. Additionally, during special park night events, a handful of guests have reported they could feel other horses on the attraction moving unnaturally as they rode it. One man ended up exiting with an actual horse bite, and several employees have described instances both in which music emanates from the ride after it's been shut down for the night, and also in which the entire thing begins to spin in reverse, with its mounts moving into positions that shouldn't even be physically possible. Number 2. Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. Located off of McKinley Drive out of Tampa in Florida lies the iconic Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, an expanse that totes an average annual attendance exceeding 4 million, resulting in it often ranking as second in popularity amongst SeaWorld parks everywhere, just behind SeaWorld Orlando. Historically, in 1957, American brewing company Anheuser-Busch would make purchase of lands now holding our beloved attraction site, and from 1958 to 1959, construction of both the Tampa Brewery and of Busch Gardens would transpire, with the establishment opening to the public for tours on June 1st of '59. In 1965, the Wild Animal Kingdom would be completed, and by 1966 would boast around 475 different species. Over subsequent years, Busch Gardens would acquire additional lands and would welcome the construction of a railroad, of a replica African village, and of an amphitheater. And later, by 1975, the park would house over 800 animal species and would begin expanding its live entertainment options. The site's first roller coaster, being the Python, would open to riders on July 1st of 1976, with the monstrous Mamba being an octopus-styled flat ride following shortly after. More recently, in 2009, Busch Entertainment would be acquired under the Blackstone Group, after which this managing company would re-establish itself as SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, and would take control of all other Busch Gardens locations as well. In the present, Busch Gardens Tampa Bay remains open to the public, offering an assortment of hardcore roller coasters, a family-styled thrill coaster, 2 water rides, and even smaller attractions targeted at children under the age of 9. Seemingly since the time of its opening, various landmarks across BGTB have been surrounded in ghost stories and tales of the inexplicable, with both staff and guests reporting extreme cold spots and temperature fluctuations, disembodied voices, footsteps, and cries of enjoyment heard emanating from rides that are shut down, and encounters with full-bodied apparitions that appear so solid they're often mistaken for the living before they either vanish entirely or walk straight through adjacent walls. And while said phenomena are experienced across the whole of the gardens, by far the site's most infamous haunted landmark is easily that of the Crown Colony House restaurant, which for years has boasted activity so strong that a handful of employees refuse to enter its bounds outright. Within, both staff and patrons have told of the constant feeling of being watched, of inexplicable chills and bouts of anxiety, of encounters with shadowy manifestations, of electronic malfunctions, and of phantom wafts of cigar smoke. Some old-timers claim the restaurant's 4th floor is its most active zone, and there, stories tell of appliances and of the elevators seemingly acting of their own volition, and of a constant, almost threatening feeling that makes the hairs on the back of the neck stand directly on end, while the Velt Room is believed to play host to both a spectral elderly bartender and also to the ghost of a piano player who is sighted in reflective surfaces more than he is directly. One final and more famous presence is undoubtedly that of one 8-year-old Wendy, who has been known to manifest either as a full-bodied apparition or as a sort of fog, and that's been heard laughing and playing across the property. While no evidence or information as to who Wendy might have been in life has ever been uncovered, this hasn't stopped reports of run-ins with her small spirit, who's been known to play pranks on the living, and that's even bounced balls ominously from dark spaces to those walking by, possibly in an attempt to cause a scare. Number 1. Six Flags Great Adventure. Located off of Six Flags Boulevard, around 20 miles to the southeast of Trenton in Jackson, New Jersey, lies the Six Flags Great Adventure Park, which, at 510 acres, earns its way into the ranks of the largest theme parks in the whole of the US. Historically, in 1972, planning for this popular expanse would begin under entrepreneur Warner Leroy, who would collaborate with Hardwick Industries over a period of 5 years in order to develop the start to his dream park. In 1974, what was known as the Great Adventure Entertainment Complex would open to the general public, offering both its Enchanted Forest and safari parks, and over subsequent years, Leroy would launch a number of additional endeavors, including the implementation of Shopping Lane, of Aqua Spectacle, and more. In 1977, the Great Adventure was purchased under Six Flags and re-established accordingly. However, after a slew of additions, alterations, and accidents, by 1987, attendance at the park would hit an all-time low, and it would actually have to face the prospect of a potential closure. Following strong public outcry and a series of strategic business moves, including the addition of more rides and games, Six Flags would manage to pull the cherished site back from the brinks of a certain demise. And more recently, in 2012, it would combine its 125-acre Grand Adventure Park with the adjacent 350-acre Wild Safari Animal Park to form what is officially the 510-acre Six Flags Great Adventure and Safari Park that we know today. Six Flags Great Adventure remains open and in operation into the present, offering a range of rides and attractions suitable for all ages, while hosting a slew of annual events, including their treasured Halloween-themed Fright Fest through the autumn months. Chillingly, the whole of the Great Adventure is rumored to be roamed by the ghosts of former staff and visitors since deceased, and those braving its bounds have told of a range of terrifying phenomena, including orbs and strange forms captured in photography and also visible to the naked eye, disembodied voices heard from vacant spaces, and the constant feelings of being watched, of being followed, or even of being brushed up against by someone or something unseen. Several investigations of the area have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, and odd fluctuations captured on thermal equipment, while others have told of phantom screams that drift on the winds, of encounters with shadowy figures, and of apparitions sighted roaming the park after close that wander for moments before fading into nothingness. In 1981, 20-year-old park employee Scott Tyler of Middletown was enjoying a routine test of the Rolling Thunder ride when he would slip and fall to his death. His apparition has been sighted both wandering park grounds and also plummeting violently through the air, horrifying all nearby before disappearing right before the moment of would-be impact. Later, on May 11th of 1984, 8 teens, including 4 students and 1 graduate of Franklin K. Lane High School, would lose their lives to a fire at the haunted castle. Now, while the castle is no more, at the bumper cars which stand where it formerly did, staff have described odd noises and sightings after close, and also a general lingering feeling of uneasiness that permeates the vicinity. Lastly, through Movietown, Batman the Ride, and the Nitro, in 1987, one Karen Ann Brown would fall to her death from the Lightning Loops coaster which used to rest near. Similarly to the aforementioned specter of Scott Tyler, Karen's ghost has been viewed either wandering the area or falling gracefully through the air and disappearing just as she nears the point at which she lost it all. Taking its fascinating history, formidable reputation, and ridiculously long list of associated local legends, ghost stories, and claims of encounters with the supernatural into account, we felt there really was no better choice than Six Flags Great Adventure as our pick for the most haunted amusement park in the United States. Thanks for joining us for our picks for some of the most haunted amusement parks in the US. If you enjoyed hearing our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with anyone you feel could use a good scare. We'll catch you all next time, if something else doesn't first.